and welcome to Fast Horses Today for Breeders' Cup Friday. It is on October 31st, Friday, over at Del Mar, and we've got 5 Breeders' Cup races, so that does encompass the late pick 5 over at Del Mar, which I do have a late pick 5 ticket. So we're going to start out in the 6th race, which does start off the Breeders' Cup portion of the afternoon. And the 6th race has an approximate post time about 2:45 Pacific time, so that's about 4:45 here in the Central Time Zone. We're starting out with the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, so that's 5 furlongs at Del Mar. When they're turf sprinting, they go 5 furlongs. There's a grade 1, and we've got a really competitive bunch here that signed up for this Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, and I just think it's a really evenly matched race. I know at Del Mar, a lot of times the speed and the rail position is really a key factor there in races. I don't see a lot of speed that's on the inside of the field here. It seems like all the horses that have drawn inside, kind of stalk. So it's going to leave it pretty challenging for all the handicappers and the bettors. And in this race, I just think so many horses have shots here. It's going to really end up probably being a rider's race, and who gets the position, who gets out, who gets on the rail, who could save ground. And let's face it, a lot of these European riders are just really good at this, and they could actually overcome things like that. So we've seen upsets in the past at Del Mar on the turf sprint. So I'm going to end up putting all in the 6th race. We're going to start out with all because I really do feel everyone here does have a shot. I was going to throw out a couple, but didn't seem to make much sense to throw out 2 horses and put the rest. So we're just going to put all. So right now, as of this time, we're a couple days out before Friday post, and we've got 12 horses signed on here. So we're going to put all, and we're going to figure that it's 12 horses. So we'll see by race day if there's any scratches. But we'll put all in the 6th race, and that would be 12 horses that are running there in that 6th race. All right, now let's move over to the 7th race of the day. 7th race of the day, this is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. And there's 1 mile and a 16th on the dirt, 2-year-old fillies. Another grade 1, as they all are. And another outstanding bunch of horses, as you'll hear me say many times, for these Breeders' Cup races. I've got 3 horses I'm going to put here to try to advance this pick 5 ticket. Now I'm going to put the 1 horse in, who is Iron Orchard. Iron Orchard for Danny Gargan. Joel Rosario takes the call here. Interestingly enough, this horse is a $2.5 million purchase. So we see that quite a bit. But this is a New York bred. That's a $2.5 million purchase. So that really, just caught my attention. You don't see that too often. So this horse is by Authentic, and she's run 3 times. She's 3 for 3. And, a lot of times I would shy away from the horses that are coming from the 1-turn races, going into 2 turns. But, this girl has shown a lot of ability here. She's shown some really nice ability in her 2 sprints over at Saratoga, winning those races by daylight. I feel like the last time she ran, was in the grade 1 Frizette, which is run at Aqueduct. That's a 1-turn race, but I felt like there was some education going on in that race. It wasn't just send her and let her go. It almost felt like the instructions were, let's get some education here in this race, because we are looking to go further. We are looking to go 2 turns. So it looked like Rosario just kind of took back a little bit on this 1-turn sprint race. And I thought she ran really nicely. And, she ended up getting up by a nose. So she's grade 1 winner, certainly belongs in here. Now, from this 1-hole draw in this 2-turn race at 1 mile and a 16th, Rosario probably will want to go to the lead or be right up there close and have an easy first turn if possible. We'll certainly leave that up to him, and I think that's certainly an advantage in the 2-turn races on the dirt over at Del Mar. So I think Iron Orchard's going to be pretty tough here at 6-1. We'll put her in there. Going to also put the 7 horse, who is Explora, for Bob Baffert. Juan Hernandez. Now this horse, she's run at Del Mar a couple times, including finishing 2nd in the grade 1 Futurity at 7 furlongs. She got beat by the other Baffert horse, was Bottle of Rouge. I think she could turn the tables there. She certainly ran well when she got her first 2-turn test in the Oak Leaf at Santa Anita with a nice speed figure. So, she took care of that 2-turn test, won that race. She's 5-2, so certainly no secret here. And no secret when you're going to put Bob Baffert in races, in the Breeders' Cup and especially in Southern California. So Explorer could be tough from here. We'll see, Juan Hernandez sometimes has a tendency to get lost in these big races against these big riders. We'll see. I think he's got a lot of opportunities here, so we're going to see what Juan Hernandez could do running up against the big boys. So we'll put Explorer in here. And then I'm going to also put the 9 horse, it was Lawali. Lawali from Mark Glatt. Flavian Pratt takes the call, which I think is a big change here, and I think it'll be a really big improvement. So first time Pratt on horses usually is a good thing. He moves horses up. I liked Lawali last time. I had better. Remember, I'd given her out on fast horses today in the Oakleaf. She ended up coming second that day. You know, Antonio Fresu rode her. And I think that, again, I think the jock switch will be, a big thing. I think Flavian Pratt will fit this horse pretty well. You know, we might see, some high speed in this race. We might see several horses that cook it up early. And if that were to happen, Lawali will be finishing quickly. I think she likes the distance. I think it's, you give her as much distance as she, as you can, and she'll handle it. She's by constitution out of a gemologist mare, sorry. Distance will be no problem. I mean, she showed me a lot, impressed me in her initial race, in her, career opener at 5 furlongs. She got up and won at 5 furlongs, which, I don't feel like she wants to sprint at all. So, I know she got beat by Bottle of Rouge in the Grade 1 Del Mar debutante. I forgive her for that. And I also didn't really like the ride that Fresu put on her in the Oakleaf. She'll be much better on Friday. So we'll also put the 7 horse Lawali at 10-1. All right, now let's move over to the 8th race of the day. 8th race is the Juvenile Fillies Turf here. So this is a mile on the grass, and these are 2-year-old fillies. I think that they sent over a real standout here, and she's going to be a single for me. That being the 13 coming out of the Aidan O'Brien barn, which, Aidan O'Brien always shoots pretty straight and pretty accurate in the Breeders' Cup races. I mean, he gets really nice horses. They have a whole operation there, as some of the biggest, richest people in the world that he trains for, and he shows up for Breeders' Cup Friday and Saturday, and he delivers. And he delivers in all different types of ways. So Precise, she's 6-5 in the program, so certainly no secret. Christopher Sumian rides the horse. Sumian rode the horse last time. I watched some of her film, and I just really liked the way she ran. I mean, she ran in, some 7 furlong races, got it done. She won it a mile last time. I don't think distance will be any problem. I think her only challenge would be in this 2-turn race coming out of the 13 hole. But you know what? These guys, these Europeans, they certainly know how to do it. We've seen them come over to Del Mar. We've seen them win from the outside draws, and they just get it done. So that would be her only challenge coming out of that 13 hole. I'm going to leave it up to Sumian. I think he'll know exactly what to do, and I think this girl is a real standout. We might see, maybe a performance of the day out of the 13 Precise in the Juvenile Fillies. So we're going to single her in the 8th race here. All right, now let's move on to the next race of the day. The next race being the 9th race. This is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, mile and a 16th. And I always wondered why they didn't keep the Juvenile on Saturday. I know that's always a big race, and you like to see the future stars run, and I know that was a race that was pretty exciting, over the decades of the Breeders' Cup. But they do have it on Friday, so I think it's kind of like the so-called feature. If there is one, they're all feature races. But we're going to go, with, I think this might be the the feature of the day on Friday. So Breeders' Cup Juvenile, mile and a 16th on the dirt, and we're hopeful these are some of your future stars, maybe some of the horses you'll see in the 3-year-old series next year, in the preps, and then in the Triple Crown races. Hopefully we'll see a lot of these horses in there, and that's always the hope for the connections, as well as horse players. So I've got 3 horses I'm going to put in here. I'm going to put the 1 horse who was Intrepido for Jeff Mullins, Hector Barrios. Now this horse certainly has gotten familiar with Del Mar, having run 2 times at Del Mar, broken his mate in there. Nice race there, running at a mile. We see this horse does want to run, 2 turns. Looks like distance is what he wants to do. He followed that up with a really nice win in the American Pharoah at Santa Anita. So he goes back to Del Mar, which, as I mentioned, he's run twice there. And, I think that this horse certainly likes the surroundings, and I think he certainly likes the 2 turns. I think he'll get a nice position here from the 1 hole. Hector Barrios has ridden this horse twice. Now, Hector Barrios, you're another guy. Don't get lost when these big guys show up. You got to show that you can ride and you can hang with them. So, I think that's the challenge there. We're going to see if Hector Barrios can compete with these big riders, big connections. He's 8-1 here. I think Intrepido is definitely worth putting in the pick 5. So I'm going to put the 1 horse Intrepido. I'm going to put the 7 horse, who is Brant for Bob Baffert. Flavian Pratt rides again. Pratt, shipped into California the 2 times that Brant ran, breaking the maiden at Del Mar at 5.5 furlongs, and then as well as winning the Del Mar Futurity. Now, there's been a lot of hope for Brant. He's a $3 million purchase. As I mentioned, Baffert trains the horse, for the Zidane Racing Stables. Zidane, that gentleman seems to put a lot of money into the game lately, buying a lot of big, big purchases, made by him. So this horse has certainly done nothing wrong, going 2 for 2. Has been a big favorite both times. Ran big speed figures. The challenge will be the 2 turns. We don't know. Sometimes horses pass that with flying colors. Sometimes horses do not. It looks to me like this horse should have no problem with distance, being by Gunrunner. Gunrunners seem to really love the run running long. And I'm sure Bob Baffert did a lot of really good training work, to get this horse ready for 2 turns. So Brant at 5-2. If this horse ends up winning, people will be wondering, I'm sure the horse, the price will be pretty nice. You'll be one of the last times you get Brant at a big price, and that'll be because we also have the 8 horse, who is Ted Nafi. Ted Nafi for Todd Pletcher. John Velasquez takes the call. Now, this horse is 4-5 in the program, so this horse will be a pretty big favorite. Ted Nafi certainly also hasn't done nothing wrong. He's 3 for 3 in his career, having started over at Saratoga, broke his maiden in really fine fashion with a big speed figure. Followed that up in the Grade 1 Hopeful, and then I thought that Pletcher, trains the horse, and Spendthrift, the owner, Velasquez, as I mentioned, is on the horse. They did a smart thing. They sent the horse over to Keeneland to run the Breeders' Futurity, which is a 2-turn race. And I really like that move. I think that move was better than running in the 1-turn Champagne over at Aqueduct. So I like the fact the horse did do really well there in the Breeders' Futurity. It was his first time around 2 turns. Seemed to pass the test with flying colors. And, I know Ted Nafi has been kind of the talk of the week. He's been training well, so he certainly is worth putting in. But as we see in Breeders' Cup races, things do happen. So that's why I am putting the 3 horses in here, putting the 1, the 7, and the 8. All right, now let's move over to the last race of the day. Last race being the 10th race. 10th race, this is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, and this is the 2-year-old boys, and they're going a mile on the grass. So, nice field of horses signed on here, a big field. We've got 14 of them. And I'm going to put 3 horses here to cap off today and hopefully have a live ticket, have 3 horses in coverage. I'm going to put the 1 horse, was Here's Johnny. Johnny runs for Raymond Handel. And we've got Javier Castellano on the horse. Now, Castellano has ridden this horse the last 2 times. You might look at the horse's record and see this horse is still a maiden. How could he possibly win this kind of race? Well, certainly could. He has 4 starts, has 3 seconds, and some nice second-place finishes. Also shows some nice runs in 2-turn races at 1 1/16 miles. He's shortening up to a mile. I think the one hole will be really good for this horse. Castellano, certainly, you don't get more cagey than he. And maybe Castellano can pull off an upset here at 15-1 with Here's Johnny. I thought he ran a couple nice races and some graded stakes in the With Anticipation. He came second to Final Score. Final Score we saw, won several races as a 2-year-old, so certainly no shame in running up against Final Score, which Here's Johnny actually did that twice. He ran second to Final Score. So I certainly give him credit for doing that. And then he ended up running second to the 12-horse Botas. Botas is in this race, but I don't have Botas here. But, we're going to take a long shot chance with the 1 horse, Here's Johnny, seeing if Castellano could work out a trip and probably finish up strongly here. We're going to also put the 13. 13 is also out of the Jeff Mullins. I'm sorry, not Jeff Mullins. My bad, I read that incorrectly. It's John Sadler training that horse. And that would be Hey Nene. He puts Joel Rosario on the horse, which that certainly, tells me something. I know that Sadler and Rosario go back, a long way. And I always know that Sadler loves to put Rosario on his horses when he can. I mean, there was a time when Rosario was a regular in the Southern California circuit, and Sadler and Rosario used to win a lot of races. And I know that he's very fond of Rosario as a rider, and I like the fact that he's switched jocks. He put Rosario on Hey Nene. Hey Nene has done some really nice work as well. 3 out of 3 wins. Broke the maiden over at Santa Anita in a turf sprint. They thought a lot of this horse. They sent the horse cross country over to Monmouth. Ended up running in the Tyro. Won that race by daylight. And then they brought the horse back to the West Coast. Ended up winning at Del Mar in the Del Mar Juvenile Turf. That's a mile race, just like they're running, on Friday. And so this horse, certainly can go the 2 turns, certainly likes it over at Del Mar, being 3 for 3. Again, I like the jock switch, 8-1. We'll see if Rosario, probably works out a nice trip. I don't know if he'll end up trying to go to the lead, probably, or getting a nice position there from this 13 hole, which certainly you want to do. So I think Hey Nene is a dangerous long shot, for the Sadler Barn and Rosario riding. And then finally going to put the favorite in, who is Gustad. Gustad for Aidan O'Brien. Already spoke about Aidan O'Brien and how wonderful he is and what he does when he brings over horses for the Breeders' Cup. He also puts Tristan Sumian again on the horse. So Sumian rides a couple times for O'Brien here on Friday. This horse has done some really nice work in his races, running in several grade 1s and, finishing right there on the wire. It looks to me like this horse will want more distance based on his film. So, he'd been running in some shorter races there and running in 7 furlongs and 6 furlong races. And those are usually straightaway races where they're running. So in watching his film, it just looks to me like that running a mile would be really what he wants to do, and probably running longer than that. So his challenge, just like Precise's challenge a few races earlier, is going to be that outside post. And, coming out of the 14 hole. But again, I've seen this happen many times in the Breeders' Cup and at Del Mar, where these European riders figure this out. They get their horses going. And I think Gustad will be finishing up strongly at the end. So to cap off that late pick 5, we've got the 1, 13, and 14. All right, now let's recap the day and recap the bets. Okay, so for Breeders' Cup Friday, we've got a late pick 5, which starts in the 6th race. In the 6th race, we're going to put, in that first race, we're going to put them all. So that's 12 horses there. Move over to the 7th race. We've got the 179 with the single of the 13, with the 178, with the 1, 13, 14. Now, if there are no scratches, that ticket comes out to be $162. I think it's worth it. I really like Precise there in the 8th race, and she's worth a single. So $162 ticket, basing everything on her, seems to be worth it to me. We see some beautiful payoffs in the Breeders' Cup, so it's another reason why I'm doing it. So as always, you can add or subtract to this ticket. You can play the pick 3s within it, make the win bet, I don't know. Whatever you decide to do, I wish you the best of luck. Let's wish the folks over at Del Mar and the Breeders' Cup a very safe day of racing. Let's wish ourselves some good trips. We'll need some good trips in some of these crowded races, and we'll get some good results here. So as always, I thank you so much for watching Fast Horses today and listening to the picks. Please like, dislike, make comments, good or bad. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything. It just puts you on the feed. I appreciate everybody who has done that. And thank you so much for watching coverage for Friday's Breeders' Cup at Del Mar, where the turf meets the surf. We'll be back with the Breeders' Cup Saturday card coming up soon this week.